Let's talk about shiny object syndrome as an author, because I see so many authors going through this where they're working on a book, but then they get an idea and they want to do this thing and they want to do that thing, and they just put their time and effort in so many different buckets that none of them ever get filled. One of the big examples that I like to use, the illustrations I like to use, is that someone is sitting on a beach and there are a bunch of holes in the sand, and there are little kids running around and puppies running around, and somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to fall in one of these holes and it's going to be a problem. So you, as the responsible adult in the room, have to fill in those holes so that nobody falls into them and injures themselves. Now, if you take your shovel and you put a scoop in one and then in another and then in another, and you just constantly go down the line and you're just bouncing back and forth, none of these holes are getting filled in very fast, and it's a constant risk to these children. If, however, you spend your time shoveling in one and filling that up and it's done, you don't have to worry about that space. Now you can just focus on the rest of the spaces. You're relieving some of those issues and you have a project that is completed, and that is very much like working with a book. You have to have a completed project for you to be able to publish it, or to get an agent, or to get a publisher. You have to have a finished project, and if you're working on 10 of them at once, that's a problem. It also leads to a lot of confusion and potential plot holes and errors, because keeping track of all those things can be a problem. So one of the best things that authors can do to make sure that they are not forgetting their ideas, they are getting everything done, but they are not bouncing back and forth like a BB in a boxcar, as they say, is to make sure you're taking notes. One of the best things that I've ever done, and I've recommended to others, is to have a running list on your phone. Pull up your notes app and title it Ideas for Future Books. Then when you have an idea, when that little spark hits, I want you to stop, and I want you to take a few minutes to write down everything you can think of. If you have a title, write it down. If you have a theme, a trope, a genre, a niche, write it down. If you have a character idea, a name, a personality, a background detail, write everything down. Everything that comes to mind in those few minutes, you're going to make note of that. If you have visuals, take those pictures, put it in a folder on your phone, so that once you finish the project you're working on and you're ready to move on to the next one, you already have those ideas. This is a very simple way for you to never run out of book ideas. I never run out of book ideas. I always have new ideas, and I have so many ideas. And sometimes it can take me 2 or 3 years to get around to writing an idea because I have so many ideas. But because I took notes, I can go back and look and remember exactly what I was thinking, where I was when I came up with these ideas. In fact, I have a book that I just wrote that is with my editor right now that I'm doing something fancy with and I can't tell you about. But I conceived the idea for this book while my niece was being born. She was born several weeks early. She was very premature and was in the NICU. And we had to rush like 7-8 hours in the middle of the night from where we were down to where my sister was in labor. And during that very long, very dangerous, snow-covered, stormy drive, I was just surrounded by the cold and by the snow and by all of these elements that sparked an idea for a novel that I then did not actually write for another 4 years. And so I wrote down characters, I wrote down plot lines, I wrote down taglines, everything that I thought of on that drive and the days leading or following after. I wrote it all down so that I could then create that book. And I was able to do it because I wrote it all down. But I waited. I waited until the appropriate time to write it. I didn't bump anything out of my schedule. I didn't start this book and then get another idea and start another book and just have a bunch of intros. I made sure I wrote down everything that I needed to know. And then when the time was right, I came back to it. So when you get shiny object syndrome, take the notes. Treat it as developmental edits. Treat it as note-taking, treat it as research, treat it as this is the preparation for later on, and then write the book at the appropriate time. You'll never forget the details. You'll always have them to fall back on and to look at, but you're not going to, run from one project to the next and never complete anything. Now, there are, of course, times when you do need to set a project aside. You shouldn't be working on that project at that time, and it's okay to bounce to something else, but generally speaking, we don't want you to be working on this project and then have an idea and move over here and then have an idea and move over here and then have an idea and move over here and just never get anything accomplished. So there is a rhyme and there is a reason for how you're doing things, and making sure you're taking notes so that you can go through the process of adequately writing your stories and getting things done to take those next steps to then move on to the next projects is going to completely change the game for how you function as an author and how you're profitable as an author, making sure you're getting things done without burning yourself out. Drop questions on this down below. Like I said, very simple, just a note on your phone with something you can easily search to find it. So get that header in there that you're going to remember, and then just take notes on everything. Even if it's a small note, even if you just think of a character name, list it. Doesn't have to have anything else with it. Just list anything that's important to you that you could potentially use to spark an idea later on and create your next best novel. Drop your questions down below. Follow along for daily episodes helping you navigate the world of publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your best author year ever with the least amount of stress and overwhelm. We'll see you in tomorrow's episode.